point though. I listened to the album like 3 times. Just because I had to like digest it. One of them was like in passing, and then the other one was like whatever.
I've only heard it like once, and it was fully in passing. Like I couldn't name.
I do think I do think it's the best album he's made, but
interesting.
I said that about the last one also. I said like in his discography, but then people on the last one, people said that they really fucked with the one before. Like his self-titled, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, no, that one like just hits different. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like this one is so far musically. But then I came into this album a little bit more like apprehensive because I read somewhere, I don't know if it was on Twitter or somewhere, but they said that this album was like an ode to Prince. And I was like, hold up. That's a very big, like I'm kind of props if he's going to go for it. But like, what does that mean? So like I came in already with a little bit of apprehension. And then when that first song came on, I was like, oh, I get it. Like he's kind of borrowing from like funk sounds a little bit. But then as the album kept going, I was like, oh no, this is not an ode to Prince. He just has a little bit more of like a funk aesthetic or a funk appeal every now and then, but not throughout like the whole album. So whoever wrote that about him, it being like a tribute to, or like an ode to, not a tribute, but like where he was borrowing from Prince a lot, I'm like, you tripping. That's not what that is. But
people just be saying shit.
Yeah, but after I let that go, because I was really, as a Prince like stan, I was like, you're really pulling at this string in the wrong way. But then after I let that go and I was like, okay, these people were just bugging, then I was like, all right, no, this is a decent album. Like I enjoy
the vibes.
Where he went, and like it's getting more like musical. As a musician, I enjoyed it more. Whereas like before, I had to appreciate it like as a pop listener, you know, to a certain degree. Watermelon Sugar and
like,
Adore You.
I mean, I think his second album was more poppy, but that's also what you were saying, like about all his albums are so different.
Yeah.
Like I get why people would be like, nah, like his first album was just so good, but his first album was very rock.
And I think his first album,
that's kind of what everybody was kind of wanting him to do at the time. Like everybody was like, dude, Harry Styles should do rock music.
Well, like the thing about that I realized in debating people about like the first album versus the second album was that like the first album really tugs at people's like memories, because the people that like really fuck with that first album were the ones that were really wanting him to go solo. And like, you know what I mean? So they were like heavily invested in him like breaking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also think
I was just like, who's this guy?
No, because as someone who has been a stan of One Direction since she was like 14, and I was a Harry girl, 100%. Like, anyway, the first album, like obviously everybody wanted him to do solo. I think part of it too is because we all knew that he was just gonna be good. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like he's the one that had the most.
It wasn't Justin. Like it was. You know? Do not compare Harry Styles to Justin Timberlake.
No.
Like, but in terms of like
he's comparing like how Justin
who you're gonna
was
compare him to in terms
like,
of a breakout
nobody knows
star.
everybody else about him.
But I don't think. Here's the thing. I don't think that's the same thing, because NSYNC didn't exist in the same time that One Direction did. And what I mean by that is like in One Direction, like all of the members had, like when I say I was a Harry girl, like that was a thing. Like there was people that were very invested in each member.
Yeah.
That was not a thing for NSYNC.
Well,
I think it was.
No, what's the other guy's name? The guy that was on So You Think You Can Dance? What's the
this is the thing. It's like as a boy band thing. Even like in the 80s when our parents were digging like specific like Menudo or whatever, they were like, oh, I like One, which is what now like as a K-pop stan we call that like, oh, you're biased. Like that's the person
bias.
you want.
Sure.
You like specifically.
Yeah.
Honestly, think that's just been with like
the only thing I mean by that is that when you listen to One Direction, you knew that Harry
Styles was
had like an essence about him where like you wanted him to go.
But I think that just happens for every group. You know what I mean?
Well, not every group. There's some groups that did not have a breakout star because the hard part about being in a group. But I'm not saying a breakout
star specifically. Like I'm saying, I think every group has like, there's always one that people are like, oh, that's the one that's gonna have like the career, the solo career.
Yeah.
Which is where I'm like, I don't know if I would say the same thing, because this like, yeah, they said that about Harry, but they said that about Zayn too. And he was yes.
I don't know. I wasn't 100% not in paying attention.
That's what
to
I mean.
The
is like you don't know what you're talking about.
But I do remember that. But I do remember 100%. That when NSYNC was coming out, everybody was like invested in JT.
That's what I mean.
And not
it's
just
like,
invested in him in terms of like we want him to do something, but like we want him to succeed. And like fucking like Justified was like, okay, like you're either gonna make it or like you're gonna flop big time, and like we're gonna watch it all happen live. Like you're gonna watch it unfold. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And even Justified was like, we don't know if you really hit it. We don't know if you really hit it. And then when Future Sex Love Sounds came out, it was oh, okay. You are a megastar. You are the thing. You know what I mean?
You're talking in a different language to me. I don't know any of those things you just mentioned.
I do think they're different stylistically, but in terms of
not even that. I just mean in general. Like I think there was so much anticipation also because he was the last one to go solo. Like, you know what I mean? Like I get all that you're saying, and I agree that like there was a lot of people that were hoping for Harry to go solo, but I don't think in this group in particular was as cut dry. And also I think like what I meant before when I was like One Direction and NSYNC like already were so like different. It's like, who are the other NSYNC members? And like they didn't really end up making a career like in music after that. Whereas like One Direction, it was like definitely there was like Harry and Zayn were like the main ones that everybody was like, those are gonna be the two that go solo. But they all went solo, and like they all like we were talking about this because we were listening. It depends. Yes, here's the thing.
Does have a fan base.
The thing is
even
that
Louis and all of them have like a general fan base, but not all of them as
they
big
all
as
have like a
Harry.
loyal ass fan base. The thing is that I also think they approach their solo careers in very different ways. You know, like Zayn has a really big
like industry plants. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a voice yet. You don't have
but
you know
also
what I mean?
I think it's just also the way that they like approach everything that comes with having like a successful music career. Like Zayn was always like a fan favorite, so obviously he does well, but like Zayn doesn't tour, he doesn't do concert, he just puts out music and that's it. He doesn't do fucking show appearances or anything like that. So maybe his presence in like the mainstream is not like as like big, but he has a very successful career. You know what I mean? Like if he wanted to tour, he would do just fine. Or like Niall, like we were just talking about this because we were like on a road trip and one of his songs came on, and I was like, honestly, he kind of like killed it when he went solo too. Like he performed at the, like his first tour was at the Toyota Center. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I think the only one that probably didn't like, here's the thing. I think the only one that probably didn't like get, I guess, which I wouldn't even say that he didn't get it. I just think the way that he did music was in a less organic way, but in a more like machine, like I'm going the typical like traditional pop music route was Liam. And he had that first solo where it was like, it was very JT. Like that was very JT.
Because that's the model.
That was his.
You know what I mean?
That was his like he came down with Strip That Down, and that was his like I'm bringing sexy back. You know what I mean?
Everybody's gonna model.
But that didn't work because I feel like also the way that we consume music now is like
so different.
Whether we like believe, whether people believe that that's true or not, like people gravitate towards artists that are much more organic. You know what I mean? And that was a very obvious like pop produced, like somebody gave him a song and he was trying to make it. You could tell
the lack of authenticity there.
And I think that's why, like specifically with like this group, like One Direction, it's like they all ended up like you said, like they were put together. They had absolutely like no control really over their own career. So when they broke out solo, they were like, well, I'm gonna do what I actually want to do. Like I'm gonna make music that I actually enjoy and that I'm like proud of, whether that like sticks or not.
Right.
But I think that's why it's stuck more than like anything else, you know?
Yeah.
Harry, I just think honestly just has like a star quality that like in the way that like Lady Gaga does or like Lizzo, where it's like they just have it. Like that's it. Like, you know what I mean? And not, I know that people hear about like Harry Styles or like One Direction and shit like that, and you know they just think of it as like, yeah, they were just some boy band that they got put together and they're just part of like this machine and stuff like that, which I get. Like obviously, like, you know, they came out from like a show that literally put them together, but like he is so genuinely, so many of them like so genuinely talented, and like you can like you hear like a Harry Styles song and you know that that's a Harry Styles song. You know what I mean? Like.
I also think
he has a very distinct voice. Yeah.
I also think with Harry Styles, something that set him apart from like the other boys and
both One Direction and also generic, like any of the boy bands, is that like he's kind of like his style and his attitude plays more towards like where society is kind of headed with like the androgyny and like
his gender. I was gonna
like,
comment on his gender performance for
sure. He has a very like,
but that's why they were comparing him.
Like he has that kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say presence, but he has the same like thing as like Elton John or like Freddie Mercury, where like you saw them and like obviously those parts of society always existed. But you're like seeing them in such like grand, like opulent, like unapologetic way. Yeah. But in the most like not like it's not trying to be that. You know what I mean? It's just what it is, and it just works. Right. And I think that's also why people are like, they appreciate it. Like, well,
that got him a very different kind of fan base, because as they were growing up and they were as his fans were growing up, and whether I don't know, I guess you could. At this point in time, for the first time ever, really, you can link that to like an ideology, like some sort of political ideology. Whereas before, Prince had gender performance, and
I think
Little Richard had a gender performance. Elton John had a gender performance where he maneuvered through his gender performance very flawlessly, organically, unapologetically, but like it was never tied to like a political ideology. Mm-hmm. And I think it does with Harry a little bit, but not to his detriment. When you say that out loud, when you say that out loud as an industry person, you might say, man, you might be shooting yourself in the foot, because they want to stay away from a lot of those kinds of like things to not isolate people, but like for him it works really well. You know what I mean? He leans into it, but like that's what heavily. I
don't really know what you mean when you say like that's tied to like a political ideology. I think a lot of the
because they attribute him with progressivism. They attribute him with.
They also did to Elton John and Freddie Mercury. You know what I mean? Like to them, it was like they are like
that. Like that's the point though. Like the point is the fact that like these like him being viewed that way in the music industry, like people want to stay with what's gonna be safe money in a lot of these like companies and stuff like that. So even people like Freddie Mercury, even people like Elton John were like, I don't really know how much I want to get involved with you, until they start realizing, which it happens the star power quite a lot.
No,
where
for a long time they would
their fan bases overrule, and they're like, oh shit, you are gonna make us money. Well, fuck it, let's just go with it. You know what I mean?
For a long time, it was very open that like Elton John was not to talk about the fact that his songs may have been sung about men. It was like, no, we gotta make this as neutral as possible, so that people think that you're talking about falling in love with a woman. The same thing with Freddie. It was like, no, it was. That's why it was such a big deal whenever the AIDS thing and live at Farm Aid, like that was such a huge thing, because for at least the beginning of their careers, not until they had star power and leverage, they were like, no, we need to make sure that maybe with Freddie Mercury's a little different. That was a completely just stadium rock band. But like Elton John for sure, where like you heard Tiny Dancer and you didn't think that it was about a guy. You were like, no, this is a man singing about a woman. Yeah. And so it was they weren't tied to any of those things really. And then now looking back on it, you're like, oh yeah, they've been pioneering the way for a very long time. But I look at like Harry Styles. I see Harry Styles' gender performance trending more so because of the political ideology, a lot more than like the actual music, which I don't think is a bad thing, but it does happen.
And I also think it's easier with Harry Styles to tie him to that like progressivism of it, because of the fact that he had a very like gender conforming kind of style before being in the boy band and everything. Like he had a masculine kind of stereotypical look in that way. Yeah. But then with like Elton John or with Freddie Mercury, Prince, they kind of just had that in their performance, that they always had like these big crazy costumes and everything. So like people were very easy to just say like, oh, like it's just a star thing. It's just, they didn't really connect it to them in that way. With Harry Styles, we've seen him be a star in this way that he was gender conforming masculine, and then that kind of switch. I think the first one that really started like the talk about it was it the GQ?
Yeah.
He's been on almost every magazine.
He did like one.
There was like
right
the first
when
time
he went
that he
solo.
came out.
He did like a GQ cover, and he was like wearing.
But everyone was
to
like
your
freaking
point,
out
it could
over
be very
the
easy. Or not?
androgyny
Sorry,
of it.
it could be very easy to say that is like you're just leaning into that. But to your point, it seems very authentic, and it works very well for him. Like it worked. Like I think he would even say like, no, this is just what I want to do. It's just what it is, and
I think that's
he's
why
very good at it, and it works really, really, really well. And to top it all off, which is props to Harry, is that the music is not bad. The music is great.
No, he's phenomenal.
So on top of that, like if he was trying to do that and just be image based and the music sucked, then it would flop. But the music is great. So then you get this like, okay, well, you in the same way as Prince, in the same way as like you can't say anything because you bop this shit hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or society culture wise, people. You know what I mean? So like you can't really fight that beast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That was the thing. Because again, like, and I was very like, I don't know. I've always been like a fangirl, and I was really into boy bands and stuff like that. And like One Direction was my shit. Like One Direction was my shit. And you know how girls always get like shamed for whatever like shit they like when they're younger, it's always like, oh my God, that's so fucking stupid. But like I was so whenever Harry Styles, like the self-titled album came out, I was ready to like, like if I talked about it, people were going to be like, oh yeah, I'm sure some fucking kid with a fucking boy band like came out with some music, like whatever. He's just, you know what I mean? It's like, duh, he already made a fucking career out of it. What else is it going to do? But every time I would play the album where I would be like, listen to this song or listen to that song, it was like, you can't tell me shit. This album is phenomenal. Like, you should really go back and listen to it because like
it's so good.
Like it was, I think the difference also why there was like, I think the first album is, I mean, I like rock music, so I liked it more than I did Fine Line. But it's just like every album has been like just so well done, but they're all so different. But they're so like every album has like their own like personality and their own like era, and I think like he's done really well at that.
You see the growth of who he's trying to be,
who he wants to be,
and his musical influences.
He was actually talking. So I was watching the interview that he had about the album, and I found it really interesting how he was talking about how he was writing and had actually finished writing the whole and composing and just finished the whole album in the middle of the tour, like in the middle of the Fine Lines tour. And he was like, I found it kind of interesting and sort of difficult to kind of go through the motions of singing this Fine Lines album when I was already in the headspace of this new album.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was really interesting to see. And he's like, but the thing was, it's like for the people who were in the Fine Lines tour, like who went to the Fine Lines tour, he was like, in his, I'm kind of paraphrasing his words, but he was like, I understand that this album was with people throughout some very interesting times. And it's like, in this album, when you hear Adore You, when you hear Sign of the Times, you don't just think, oh, this album came out maybe a month or two ago and now I'm going to go watch the tour. No, this album came out 2 years ago and I've been listening to it religiously, getting through some tough times. So he's like, when people were there singing Sign of the Times, people were like feeling Sign of the Times.
That's how it was in the Houston concert. Like
yes,
Brenda and I,
especially because it got rescheduled.
That was gonna say, Brenda and I got tickets at our college apartment, like when we still lived and we had that shared room. I remember we like met up. I don't know if that day, I think there was class. I think we met up like right before class and we were like, all right, we're getting on fucking line. We're getting in the queue. We got tickets like the day of, like as soon as tickets went through, we put it on my credit card. I still have not recovered from that. And that is not a joke. And we literally waited 2 fucking years, and then they rescheduled the first tour because the first one for COVID.
Yeah, and the second
and
one
we were like,
storm.
oh my God, can you believe that we're gonna see like finally
raging.
after a fucking year we're gonna see him like in like a month, and then they rescheduled it again, and we were like, what the fuck are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
So when we went to the concert, like it was the most insane fucking energy. Like I love going to concerts, and honestly, every time I go to a concert, I'm like, that was my favorite fucking concert ever. Like, because it's always just such a good fucking experience. But I like every fucking song hits so fucking, and everybody was losing their shit because it was like this anticipation, this like build
crazy.
up.
So I have never really gone to concerts. Like the Harry Styles concert was actually the first concert I had been to in years, and I mean crazy. Like probably 10 to 13 years, probably more than that. And I was one, losing my shit, and then two, now that I've literally gone to like 2 to 3 concerts every single month ever since the year started, and I noticed that like at the Harry concert, I was in nosebleeds. Like I wasn't nowhere.
Oh my god, I was so close. Brenda and I walked up to our seats and we were like,
I was literally nowhere, and nowhere was it known to me or anybody else around me, apparently, that, you know, it's probably like not usually where people just stand up and start jumping and bouncing and shit on nosebleed sections, right?
At a Harry Styles concert,
but people were wilding.
I kid you not a single person was sitting down on the nosebleeds. We were all jumping around, and I will say this, even at my latest concert, which was at the Coldplay concert at the NRG, there were people sitting the fuck down, chilling, doing their thing.
Because there's old people that go see Coldplay.
That's true. Yeah, and it was also a way bigger venue, so like it makes sense that there's gonna be people who are gonna sit down.
That's why they
stop.
I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I like love Coldplay, but it was so interesting to see how much, and then comparing it to like just how the energy was. Everybody knew every single song. All of us were going
We had
wild.
2 years to learn the fucking lyrics.
Sunflower came on, and people were fucking wilding the fuck out.
Off.
Like it was just crazy.
That's cool. But that's great. That's great.
To be fair, though,
so good.
It really works for him.
Whenever I went to his first album, like his first tour, we literally got $25 like nose, and like when I'm saying we were in the like there was nobody above us. Like we were in the last fucking seat. It wasn't even actual seats. It was like folding chairs. I'm not even fucking kidding. And we didn't sat down the entire time. Like he's also just like a phenomenal fucking performer. Yeah. Like his stage presence is fucking, that's what I mean. And I feel like I always compare it to like people like Freddie Mercury and Elton John and like all that shit, because I grew up with like parents that were really into like that kind those of stuff, kind of like, you know, just like icons that just, they were like, hey, this person changed like music. They changed the music industry. So I grew up, you know, like looking at like Michael Jackson and my dad being so like, you don't understand what the fuck this was. You know what I mean? Like just them talking about artists like that and getting like, I think of like Lady Gaga, somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like Beyonce. Somebody who like absolutely changed like the music industry. Beyonce, who like changed the way that like
that Coachella performance for Beyonce,
forget about
is fucking insane.
But I've never gotten to see them live, you know what I mean? So it's a very like surreal idea. So surreal. Like I think about watching Lady Gaga live, and it doesn't feel real that I like exist in the same at the same time,
like breathing the same air
I saw Beyonce
so when I see Harry Styles
on the Run tour, and
I can't fucking imagine.
It was crazy.
But so then Harry Styles has been an artist that like I've been following since I was 14. I've seen live at every tour he's had. He's only had 2, but you know, like,
and we're gonna camp out for them Austin tickets.
And we're going to see him in fucking September. Like Brenda and I were talking about it, and every time I'm like, Harry Styles might be that one fucking artist. You know, like how your parents were like, yeah, I saw this person like every tour they had. Yeah. Like that might, like I'm literally probably gonna be fucking 50 years old and being like, I saw every fucking Harry Styles tour. Yeah. Because I like, it's like I was alive during that time, but it's so like wild to like go to a concert of his and be like I can't fucking believe that I'm witnessing this right now. Like I can't believe that I am alive for this like right now. Like there's a lot of good fucking artists right like out there, which I think it's amazing. Like I honestly feel like I could say that about a lot of other artists, but it's so surreal when you're there and you see them live and you're like, oh, this is a real thing.
You get like almost like mesmerized. And I'm not one that I think, even with the people that I have like specific artists that are like very, very like monumental to my life particularly, that they're big artists, and they're not by any means small artists, but like I wouldn't say that I would get flustered or anything like that around an artist. If I were to meet them in real life, I would they're just a person, so it's like not really all that crazy. But their presence and in what like your life has become, and like their concerts and all that stuff like that, it's fucking insane. Like Harry, like
I
really has figured out how to.
I remember because we waited 2 fucking years for the Fine Line tour, and you know, like I don't listen to music now the way maybe that I did. Like again, because I've been obsessed with him since I was like 14. It's very different when I was 14 and I was like a fangirl. Now I'm like, oh my God, I love him, and like I love his music and stuff like that. But I like. On a normal like day, like I'm not thinking about like I'm a Harry stan or what, like it's not part of my lifestyle. But I walked into that venue and I was like this man has me by a fucking chokehold. Like the way that I lost my fucking shit, because I was like
you lose all sense of composure whenever you're actually in the presence, like quote unquote presence, that's what I mean, of somebody that has actually, especially because like you like were being now 23, so.
You're like, why do I still feel this way? Like what's that? Like I didn't like, think I would be freaking out about people like this, you know?
Like, honestly though, like okay, as somebody who is a fan, like you, like a fangirl through and through, I was a fangirl. I've loved boy bands since forever. Like I was Jonas Brothers, One Direction, Big Time Rush. Like I know this sounds like super Gen Z, but like I would bark for Harry Styles, like woof woof, literally. Like who doesn't love Harry Styles? Being at the Harry Styles concert was like really fun. Like honestly, I've never actually been to a Harry Styles concert before. I wasn't actually that big of a fan of Harry Styles before. Not that I didn't stan him, not that I wasn't like, yo, Harry, anytime, backstage, baby, all the time, in One Direction, but I got the tickets like just solely randomly, and I was like, fuck it up, let's go. I didn't even know they were resale tickets. God knows how much I paid for them. I'm sure it was a lot of money for nosebleeds. But like he did a really good job at he did a good job at performing. We love a performance. We love an androgynous king. We all showed up looking like we deserved to be his girlfriend, theoretically, although it could never like amount to Olivia Wilde, but whatever. I think that's like the one acceptable choice to just like let Harry go for, because it's Olivia Wilde. Like, okay. I've been that girl that was like, I was that crazy girl, quote unquote crazy 100%. Girl at school. There was like, oh, she's the one like Jonas Brothers. 100%. So naturally, everybody that knows me was not surprised when I was like, oh, you like K-pop? Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like it's just boy bands in Korean. So it's like, to me, the idea of like trying to make sure that people don't see me as a crazed fangirl is crazy, because it's like the minute you are in front of I'm in front, or I was at the Harry Styles concert, I was like, you know what? All that sense of like repressed fangirl motion, because I don't want people to be like, oh, you're that girl. It's like, yes, I am that girl. But like the minute you're there, it's like, no, I'm that girl times 1,000, baby. It's because like, it's like overwhelming how much you're just like, well, I give him props. This.
I give him props because I know that as like it's so hard as a boy band. It's so easy to just fall off after you get the machine, after the machine stops helping you or whatever, like just the industry or so it's probably, maybe you could make the argument that it's probably harder to have a successful career out after a boy band career as opposed to like brand new, fresh. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
I would say so.
You could probably make that argument. I wouldn't be mad if somebody was like, yo, that's real. But it's also a very exciting thing to see, because then you get to like watch them really defy the odds and like and then turn into whoever they're going to turn into. You know what I mean? Because at least on my outside looking in, definitely not that perspective. But like I heard his first album, I didn't really care for it, and then I heard his second album, and I was like, okay, I understand. I still think his best song is "She," and I don't think I don't think he's written it. Even on this new one, I was like, I'm really looking forward to see if he really puts another song like that together, and he hasn't. But it's also not like his stuff is bad, and I've seen him. I've like watched it in the same way with JT. Like you watch him grow into like kind of like the kind of appreciation he has for certain music.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I get where you're pulling from, and I appreciate that about you as an artist. And then with Harry is the same. Like I see where you're.
Something so upsetting about you keeping Justin Timberlake in the same room.
I mean, he's the closest thing. He's the closest thing to that kind of like mega stardom after a boy band.
Except Justin Timberlake didn't write his own songs.
He wrote a good portion.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, Harry co-writes.
I'm sure he co-wrote with like Timberland and stuff, but he wrote most of his stuff.
I was actually just looked up like which songs Harry's written, and like most of his albums come up there, but I do believe there's a couple songs on there that he didn't write on his own, or like at all.
The thing. I always feel so iffy about like writing credits, specifically with artists, because people are always like, "Oh, but all of their songs are co-written." It's like. That could be
just full disclosure on that. Like anytime, if
that could be one word,
right? If you contributed a word, if you were just even in the session when the song was being recorded, you can get producing credits.
Like you can't really.
I mean, I feel like it's also important to note, like not just Harry's style, like Harry's songs, like and on his albums, but like his involvement in other people's songs, I think, is also very interesting.
He has written like songs. Like during One Direction, he would write songs
really
for other
enjoy
people.
Same thing for JT.
I really enjoy seeing artists who are specifically in their own, like either they're in a group or they are on their own and they write their music or are involved in the writing all of their music. Whether it's just alone or whether it's with other people, but also them writing music for other people, like just other artists completely that they will never, ever. They probably had like the demo version of it of like, this is how I think it would sound. And then the artist goes in and goes, all right, well, I'm going to make it sound like that. And it's like, cool. I also find that really interesting. And I really like that Harry Styles does that because a lot of the people I do appreciate, I've grown to
like him more as he makes more music.
Yeah.
Because at first I'm always hypercritical of people coming out of boy bands or just in general, pop artists in general. I'm very apprehensive, but I will get on board 100% the moment that I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get what this is. I get what it's for. And I'm like, even if it's not for me, I'm like, this is great. Like when Lord came out, I'm like, I understand this all day. I'm a fan. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've appreciated him more as I see more of his musical influences. I'm like, I fucks with you. I fucks with you. I probably won't ever go to a show or whatever, but like I can appreciate the pop appeal, you know, and things like that. And the same thing with JT. Like I don't think I'd ever go to a JT show, but I appreciate looking back on it. Speaking of terms of like shaping pop music, I mean like that's shaping pop music, you know. And a lot of people like maybe to some people, JT hasn't aged well, but he really did shape pop music for a good minute. Like Future Sex Love Sound was what everybody was trying to emulate.
I think for sure JT is definitely somebody who has influenced the music industry in a lot of different ways. Just like the way he popped off, the way he collaborated with people, the way he just kind of did.
Well, his formula is solid. I mean, Timberland and Pharrell. I mean, you can't really go wrong there. And then him, you know, he's got a good voice. Like he's got a really interesting voice that you're like, all right, this is fun to listen to. In there, you know. So I mean, like, it works out. But yeah,
Strawberry
I think that's
Bubblegum. Let's go. Tunnel Vision. Love it. I actually really like
that girl.
That girl. I'm in love with that girl. That girl.
It's like
anyways,
what else is single Justin Timberlake song if I wanted to.
I actually like Justin Timberlake.
You probably just know like "Sexy Back" and stuff or something like that.
That's it, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah. I have a wide variety of artists that I like
pop music. So I love pop music.
You just don't fuck with JT.
Well, he hasn't actually come out with any music in a really long time.
Well, he came out with "Man in the Woods," but even then, it just doesn't hit the same as before.
Because I listened to
the single from there was with Chris Stapleton.
Ew,
it wasn't bad. But it also was. There's actually a song, and again, I listen to pop music very differently because like there's some like on the Harry Styles record, the new one. My favorite songs are the ones where there's like jam breaks because as a musician, and I'm like, man, I really fuck with this song. In the same way that like when Man in the Woods came out, it's probably his least. I
don't think that he had a song that popped off of it because.
But there's a song on there that fucking jams, and I'm like, man, I play this song for. There's like a harmonica solo and shit, and I'm like, yo, this fucking song bops. So yeah, I will give it like the whole. I would give the listen to the whole thing because I'm just like trying to figure out where they are.
As a person who listens to the music before they listen to the lyrics, myself, I have a pretty good appreciation for people who like to like stylistically change a lot. Like the songs don't necessarily sound the same whenever you're listening to the album. They have like a general vibe, but like I could tell that there was different things included in there. And then since I usually listen to the actual lyrics last, like I don't actually pay attention to the lyrics at all. I don't pay attention to really much of a lot of what it says until somebody mentions to me, it's like, hey, by the way, there's like a double entendre on here. And I was like, there is? Let me see.
I'm lyrics
and you're
first.
like that. You are like lyrics. Let me see. What are you saying?
I'm lyrics first.
What are you implying? Like for instance, for one of my favorite John Mayer songs, I didn't notice until maybe like the 50th, 100th time that I listened to it, that it was talking about, it was, I don't even know the song name. I just know it. It's just the song that says, you know, we could be on like our third baby number 3 or something that. And I was like, hey, what's he talking about? And like until then, but like I just genuinely like the song beforehand, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm lyrics first.
You are,
and I'm music second. And then, but they both kind of have like the equal amount of gravity. I will like a song if the lyrics don't hit, if the music is really good, and I will like a song if the lyrics are really good and the music's not all that. And if you have both, then you've got me
like
sold.
Paramore's song,
huh?
Like Paramore's song.
That some Paramore songs go hard.
Well, there's like that one particular song that you were like Paramore.
Oh yeah. Tell me how.
Yeah, tell me how that you were like this.
Yo, like Haley Williams killed those lyrics, or whoever wrote that song. I don't know if it's just her because it's a collaboration with the band or whatever. But that fucking song.
Like the you keep
it's on the After Laughter album.
Yeah, like you keep me up with your silence.
Man, it's the last song. It's what they close it with. Shit.
Paramore can do no wrong.
Fuck
we love Paramore.
Me. I was so surprised, and then just her saying, "Of all the weapons you fight with, your silence is the most violent." Yeah. I was like, yo, y'all gotta. I rewinded the whole thing, the whole album. I was like, I gotta the whole thing. I gotta listen to it again because I just like whatever this is. I gotta put it in context with everything that she's saying. Yep. So it's that kind of shit that I'm talking about, like the power of it. I was really impressed. I have been really impressed with just Harry Styles' progression throughout music, just because. I really wasn't a big fan. I really was a big critic of him because, you know, the typical like, you know, pretty boy, not really a musician, kind of like coming in and trying to, and everybody had this like big hype about him. So I wasn't sold off the beginning, but as time has kept going, like I'm a fan. I like his work and I like what he's doing. I think overall he can probably keep having some great music come along, and I actually don't think that he's made his best work yet. So that'll be exciting, you know? Like in the same way that I know that Juliet was mad about the fact that I kept comparing JT to Harry, but in the way that like JT had Future Sex Love Sounds and then 2020 Experience, and they were like big monumental things for him, I don't think Harry Styles has made his 2020 Experience or his Future Sex Love Sounds. I think he still has the potential of pulling that off. So that's kind of exciting because he's really doing a fucking phenomenal job. So keep it up, you know? But in terms of other mega stars that have news, A$AP Fenty's born. He was born. Yeah.
He's born.
No, there's no picture. He is royalty. They are not going to be putting that. Yeah,
It's a boy.
It's a boy.
When?
It was like a couple days ago.
What are we? May? I think it was like the 8th.
Oh wow.
Oh, for real? Oh, we're lately.
Something like that.
Is that why she wasn't at the?
No,
at the Met?
because she was at the Met Gala, wasn't she?
She was not. Her statue was
not.
Her statue was there. That's what it was. Yeah.
No, she's been in Barbados because I think she wanted to give birth in Barbados. So you can't fly. So she's been there.
That's fucking yeah. So no, he's royalty. You're not gonna see him for a couple years. We just saw like.
No, we're not gonna see him probably for a couple months.
We barely saw. Beyonce
I mean, I guess it depends on if they like choose to make him. No, we don't know anything about him. They just know that he was born and he was a boy.
Yeah.
Cute. That's good.
Royalty.
I guess
Music
we'll have
royalty.
to wait and see if they're gonna like keep his like life, because you know how sometimes celebrities like don't really.
I am totally. If you are
I'm
that fucking
100%
famous,
down.
if you are that famous, I would rather not see your kid. Hide your kid from everybody.
I don't even think
don't
being
show
famous.
Yeah,
I
don't
think,
show
like,
your
if
kid to
you're-
anybody.
If you're on just like social media as a normal person, why are you showing your kids on your social media? Like, why are you showing their faces?
I think I understand
I'm
celebrities.
I'm not too worried about that.
No, because I feel like if you're a normal person, you're like your kid is just part of your life.
Yeah.
Unless
But if
you're
you're-
not posting anything.
I don't know.
But if
As
you're
like
Rihanna
as
or
a parent,
Beyonce,
I
and,
think
like,
it's weird.
I mean, I think
because-
it's your choice, but I don't think it's weird.
I just don't need to see like. If it was me and I'm that famous, I signed up for the smoke. Like whatever. If I show up, if I walk out and I look fucking like dusty, like I'm gonna get the smoke on Instagram in the comment section, and y'all make a meme out of me wherever, right? But if my kid is with me and you start, you know what I mean? Like you start saying some funky shit about my kid.
Like the way they started talking about Beyonce's baby girl.
Yeah, when people
like
start talking about Blue Ivy and stuff, I'm like, yo, son, that's a kid.
It's
like,
a
don't.
kid.
Like, what did
people
she
don't give a
do?
fuck.
She was just born and just exists. Like, what you doing? Like, so yeah, no, hide your kids. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with Drake, whenever Drake, we all found out about his boy because of the song.
Adonis.
I was like, I don't want to, like, no, keep it, hide it. Like, I totally
He
understand.
didn't show his baby for a really long time.
For a long time, for a good
long
reason,
time.
because then
A lot
people
of
were
them
gonna
did.
start talking, especially whenever they saw him. He had like blonde
blonde.
hair and like this shit.
It's like I don't understand why people are. I don't understand where the
and
surprise
people,
came
I was
from.
like, oh my god, I can already see the comments. I can see the thought process in his head. Like, man, people gonna have so much to say, so I'm just like hide it, put it away for a little bit until way later. You know what I mean? I
feel
understand
like
it. I get
it's
it.
one of those things where people always are gonna like. That's why I'm like. I agree. Like if I was like famous or whatever, I might choose to be like, well, I chose this life, but my kid didn't, and I want to protect them and keep them safe as much as I can. But also, I think for a lot of people, it's also like they're gonna have something to say regardless. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if Drake wouldn't have showed his kid for years, then they would have been like, he's so ashamed of him, he never talks about him. You know, it's like
you know,
so
They're gonna say something anyway.
that's my fucking kid, and I'm gonna do whatever I want with him. And if I
Yeah.
want to post about him, I will. And if I want to stop posting about him, then I will too.
Yo, did y'all see him troll that dude's on Instagram? Did y'all see that Drake thing?
No.
He was commenting.
Oh
on,
yes.
Yeah. Did you see it? Did you see it? He was commenting on something because people were talking shit about this dad that was like hyper supporting his son in college basketball or high school basketball or something. So Drake left. I think he either posted or he left a comment that said like, "Yo, how weird is it that like people are making fun of you for being just a good dad? That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like fucking I'm gonna show up like that times 100 for my kids, even if he's like for my kid, even if he's like in a Rubik's Cube competition, which is like fire. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Like that's
exactly
a good
what you're
father, you
supposed to
know.
do.
So somebody wanted to troll and wrote like, you know, your kid's probably playing with ghostwriters.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about something completely
No.
different.
Somebody. So then you're gonna want to hear this. Somebody wrote on there, your kid's probably playing with ghostwriters because they want to keep bringing up the fact that Drake had ghostwriters.
Oh no, it is the same thing. I just didn't see that first comment.
So then Drake commented back and was like,
I have it. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it. What did it say?
So somebody said, "This is crazy." Oh, because Timur Morant, I don't know who that is, so please like don't come for me. Whatever, is approaching something. So the person said, your son probably played with ghostwriters, and Drake said, I just follow your girl because she's probably miserable and needs some excitement in her life. And then
he followed her.
And then he DM'd her and she posted about it. He DM'd her, I'm here for you, Ma. And she said, oh, nah, fool really DM'd my wife. I'm crying.
So he really DM'd his wife. No, and then the dude played it off like, yo, this is wild, this is funny, like blah, 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 this and
that's
that.
That's the only way you can do it, really.
But even then, I know you're shitting bricks, dog.
Yeah, for real.
I know you're shitting bricks because I was going through the hip-hop sphere, right? And people were like, nah, this boy's shitting bricks because Drake can really pick his girl up, take her for
Drake
dinner
can steal your girl, bro. We talked about this already. How Drake can steal your girl.
Let Drake slide into my DMs as a joke,
bro.
As a joke, I will turn it into something serious. Like we will make it happen.
And like people were really clowning this guy.
Let me have a chance.
And the first thing in my mind was like, okay, if they really have like a really strong relationship, I could see how even the girl could be like, yo, this dude's bugging. Like he's just trying to do whatever. And like, I'm really not going to do anything. But also just knowing that this man can drop 100 stacks today to just treat your girl however she wants, and then like drop her off, and he's not even like caring about it. He would never talk. Yo, that's gotta make you feel.
It's not even that. Just because I agree.
Gotta make
I
you
feel
like trip a little bit.
I agree. If I was in a relationship and like that were to happen, like
Wait, and this person is this person famous?
No, just a regular ass.
No, it was like
Snow.
on the Shade Room or some shit like that. You know,
some regular ass.
Wait, so this like a random ass motherfucker,
yes.
and then he. So you tell me that Drake's petty ass literally went onto this man's
where the hell
profile?
have you been?
I don't follow the hip hop like sphere.
No, but we just explained it to you.
He did it. He just did it.
I thought like whatever name you said, I didn't know it wasn't a.
Like you thought it was a famous person.
I thought it might have been somebody who was like
shit. Even if it is a famous person, Drake can still
no, that's fine. But I would have thought that that's what it was. I would have thought it was just like some regular fucking.
It's like if Drake, if you had a boyfriend and then he tried to say some like sleek ass shit to Drake, and then Drake was like, bet, let me get
I'd
with your
immediately
fucking
tell
wife.
my boyfriend, you better respond back and say something even more so this motherfucker give me his number or something. I don't know.
Damn. No, but immediately.
Hey, finesse them both.
I would have been like, go ahead and fuck up, because guess who has access to Drake's DM now?
Y'all are over here like really trying to get your boyfriends to wingman you for Drake.
Yo, that's wild.
Baby, if I eat, we both eat. What the fuck?
If my boyfriend does not support that kind of situation,
that's what I'm saying.
What? Yeah,
that's like, you know that whole thing about like boyfriend, like guys on TikTok now are like, why the fuck are you mad about your girl like getting free drinks at the bar, bitch? Like that means you don't
never been
have
upset about that. I've never been upset about that.
It's the same thing.
Did you see that
that's
TikTok
different.
That's the same thing.
That's different because a $50,000 bag
of what was that?
There's a TikTok, like a big TikTok that went around that's like one guy's like posting a video and he's like, I just want y'all to know, if your girl accepts free drinks at the bar from another guy, that's cheating. And then it jumps to this other guy doing like a skit and he's like, oh, that guy? That guy over there? He bought you a drink for free? Just because you're cute? Wait,
go get me another
one.
Tell them I want to sex on the beach.
Yo, the amount of times I've been on the river and somebody's like a girl's like, hey, let me get a drink from you from like another group. I'm like, hey, give me one. Hey, tell him to give me one. Tell him to give me one.
There's have two girlfriends.
Hey, just like, hey,
it's like,
hey, why did you just get one? Like, yeah, what are y'all talking about? Like, yeah, negotiate. What's going on right now?
Absolutely.
That's different though, because if Drake can literally be like, hit to Bush right now.
You best believe my ass is running a bush.
And I would be like, what terminal?
Right. You know what I mean? Not even. You got to go to the private jet section.
Where? Like, that shit is not in Bush.
Well, at our hobby or wherever the fuck, Millionaire or wherever the fuck it is.
I don't know. I'm poor. Obviously, I don't know where the fucking private jet terminal is.
Either way, all he has to be like is just go there right now, and in 6 hours you could be in fucking wherever.
And I will be like, I'm scouting vacation spots for us.
Just for dinner. Just to like, just to get a ribeye.
Hey, like that's a ribeye my boyfriend didn't have to pay for.
Absolutely.
Nah, son.
Y'all are tripping.
That's not it.
Y'all are tripping.
I don't know, man. Look, again, kind of going back to
that's not it, and I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna tell you why it's not it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Even as the girl, you should probably be like, yo, that's not it, because at that point, the real problem there is that Drake had an issue with what that guy said, and Drake's treating you like you're just property. Like you're just like, yo, I could take this from you. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. What's your point?
In a battle of egos, I can take this from you, and
I will bark.
Like,
okay,
that's not something you should really be advocating for.
So you're telling me that I would get a free vacation, a free dinner, and I get to hurt my boyfriend's ego? Like, what am I losing here? I'm not understanding.
Your boyfriend.
I would immediately.
I don't have one, so we're already good.
Case, I would immediately be like, oh, okay, you treat me as property and think that you could just take me away from somebody else because I'm just property. I'm gonna take shit from you then. I'm gonna play you right back.
Yeah, we're robbing you. What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Also, he's not taking, like, you're thinking of it that way because that person.
He's thinking about it that way because he said, your girl's probably miserable.
That makes sense.
The implication is that, like, you're that.
You know what? Dusty men already think that way. So if I'm gonna be treated like that from a dusty man, and I'm gonna be treated like that with like a man that has billions in his account.
Yeah, that part. But also,
and if that man's gonna buy me some stuff, can say, you know what, fuck it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm like. Drake is not like kidnapping them and being like, this belongs to me. He's saying like, hey, I can offer you something better. And if she's like financially smart, she'll say, okay.
So what can you offer me? Absolutely.
Well, that did happen. And people were roasting this guy hilarious. For a whole minute, and then
realistically, I probably wouldn't do it, but I would like threaten my boyfriend with it all the time. If I had a boyfriend and that happened, are you joking?
I
would literally hold it against them for years to fucking come.
Like if he didn't go, like if he didn't say something right to your mom,
I bet Drake would.
Hey, baby,
like if you're at the barbecue and he didn't say something right to your mom, you're like, I bet Drake wouldn't have said that.
Exactly. Can you go give me some ice cream? No, baby, I'm tired. I don't want to go get you ice cream.
Make would have given me ice cream.
I'll just call Drake. He'll send me some fancy ice cream.
And there he
goes. You think Drake wouldn't pay for my Uber Eats, bitch?
That's but that of course nothing came of it, but like it did happen. It did make a lot of people
because that's how it should. It should just be like one moment of if it's too long, then it loses like the charm and the humor.
Damn. Did y'all catch the Met Gala?
What do you mean?
Yes.
Did y'all see it? Did y'all experience it? I wanted. Okay, so originally
I wanted pictures. I don't watch the live stream.
Originally, I wanted us to come here that Sunday after it happened and just pull up all the pictures of what everybody was wearing and just talk about it. That's originally what I wanted to do. But then that same week is whenever that abortion thing happened.
Yeah.
So then I was like, crap. Like that seems like it should take a little bit of precedent.
Oh man.
Yeah.
These women rights just really getting into the way of me talking about the Met Gala.
Yeah.
Well, and then we scrapped it. But now it doesn't seem like, why are we gonna talk about all what everybody wore?
The thing about the Met Gala is that the only thing we would have really had to say is why can't bitches follow a theme?
That too. Okay, first of all,
that fucking part. But that's always been the case.
That's
they
it.
were not.
That's not.
They never do.
Well, for the most part,
they really don't. But
yeah, every year is a different thing.
That's the whole thing.
This one was the Gilded Age.
Yeah,
most of these themes, I would have been calling people like, "What the fuck?" Like, look that shit up because I don't know what the fuck this means.
I think all of it was cool. Like,
a knight armor.
They all looked pretty and stuff. My thing was like,
who killed it the best though?
I don't know about who killed it the best, but I will say I don't
Blake Lively.
Blake Lively did amazing. But she's like, she's always been on, like, she knows what the fuck.
Baby, she's chairman. Like, what do we expect?
Been knowing what the fuck to do.
Blake Lively showed up and said, y'all need to go home.
Yes.
Every year.
Really?
Every year.
Specifically the Kardashians. Because the Kardashians absolutely.
Oh, what did y'all think about that Marilyn Monroe dress thing? Because that was a scandal,
actually was about to start talking about that. I don't like the fact that she did that. And I specifically don't like the fact that the reason that I have to even talk about it is because she did that. Like,
why don't you like that she did that?
I don't like that she did that because of the fact that I was watching a bunch of videos of it afterwards, and as somebody who likes to preserve cultural artifacts, it wasn't about what Marilyn was doing at the moment, like singing "Happy Birthday" for the president and being all promiscuous and whatnot.
It was who she became.
No, it was about what that dress meant when she was wearing it. So at the moment, in that time, especially in like that era, it wasn't, you couldn't and you shouldn't have worn dresses like that ever anywhere. So
what do you say to the argument that like she might have been exposing people to what that was?
What do you mean?
Like her wearing that dress might have been like a action call to be like, y'all need to look with this up. This is why this is what I'm doing is so iconic.
I think that would have been okay if she had said like, this is an imitation of the dress. And that's why, and this is why, and not said anything. But that's the thing. Like
it does show a lot of the power that she has.
It shows a lot of disrespect to do that because that dress itself cost a lot of money, and then also
she can't keep it. Also, she got
that's in a museum.
But they essentially, what they did was that dress in and of itself, just to get to her, had to be in a temperature controlled, regulated, humidity, everything, because it's so fragile. It's so old.
Because it's been decades.
It's so old. So it's old, and it wasn't made the best. It was made to tailor. She was sewn
into the dress.
Marilyn Monroe was sewn into that dress. So for her to just be like, I have the authority to wear what I want.
If I had to like step on it on a side, I'd probably err on like, she probably shouldn't have done it just because of the cultural meaning and significance of that. But I also don't have a horse in the race, so maybe you can convince me otherwise.
Here's the thing. I don't know that I necessarily stand specifically on like one or the other. When I heard that she was wearing it, I was like, that is fucking iconic. Like,
I thought it was so stupid. I honestly just think that.
And
I thought it was disrespectful because it's like, I don't think that you or anybody else, I don't even think anybody in this world has the right to disrespect culture like that. Like,
but why is that disrespectful to, like, here's the thing that I have a problem with.
Because I'm
not attached to American culture, obviously.
Yeah.
And I love fashion and I love like fashion history. And I agree, like, this dress was iconic because it was something that like nobody could have done. Like, at the time, it was like, you weren't allowed to wear shit like that, much less in front of the president of the United States.
Right.
I understand the grandeur of that.
It was a feminist thing. Yeah.
It was a movement. It was during the movement.
I think I agree with. I think it's hard because on one side, I do kind of wish that she would have had a replica of it, not because I think it was disrespectful, but because the dress, when it was made, it was supposed to, the reason why it was so scandalous too is because it was supposed to look like her skin. Like, she was supposed to look like she was just glowing. And I wish that they would have made a dress for Kim Kardashian that replicated that. I think that would have been just... that would have been everything. I also think
that, like, on various notes, on top of the fact that she, like, what Marilyn wore, that, like, the Marilyn wearing that dress was the segue to us wearing whatever we're wearing right now, is essentially what a lot of, like, fashion historians were talking about. And then also, specifically, Marilyn said, I don't want anybody else to ever touch this dress or wear it or be seen in it because... that's just my wishes as a person who is wearing this dress. And whenever
did she actually say that?
Yes. So, like, it was...
that's probably the most compelling argument.
And here's the thing, they were like, no disrespect, but like, you, like, the owners of the, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, again, I don't feel like super strongly or anything, but
I believe the Maryland estate wasn't even like notified about it.
Because it's not like, it was a dress that was made for her, but like, that dress belongs to a designer. You know what I mean? Like, somebody designed it for her, and it was like a big thing.
That's another thing. Like, if you
it wasn't on the designer, it was on an auction.
It's like the J-Lo dress, like the J-Lo Versace dress. It's like that dress, like, you cannot think of that dress without thinking of J-Lo, period. Like,
but it doesn't belong to
J-Lo. She owns that dress. But also, like, Donatella Versace can be like, I'm gonna put anyone I fucking want in this dress, and like, people can be like,
it wasn't a designer who, like, this was I was at the Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, and so the thing I don't like, the thing I don't like about it is the fact that, like, money was the reason why she was able to disrespect.
You think it's money? I don't think it's
money. What does that mean, though?
That's the one.
She was able to be like, hey, I can pay this much for y'all to give it to me.
She might have
had to pay for it,
She might have had to pay, but even if she did,
even if she borrowed it, I don't think that, because there was damages done to the dress.
Well, of course there's going to be damages. She don't look the same.
Also, it's like a 40-year-old dress.
Yeah, but that's what you're not supposed to touch.
However long.
Here's my rebuttal to that. As much as I don't like Kim Kardashian, and you know, I also think Kim Kardashian does have the cultural clout to that, to where if she went to whatever entity or whatever that is in charge of would be able to make those kinds of things happen, she could go to those people and they will listen to her, not because of her money. They will listen to her because of who she is to culture at the moment. You know what I mean?
That's also why it was such a big thing for her to wear that dress, because in the same way that people were like, well, that dress changed like American fashion, and it changed the way that women were like allowed to, like, Kim Kardashian is like now in like current American culture, whether like we like it or not, like, she changed the way that like people like consume fashion, and she changed the way that women were like allowed to like present themselves in like public, whether we think it's like a good thing or not. So I think in that way, like, they're close, but also I think, like, if anything, like, if like whoever is in charge of the dress, in this case is the museum, like, it is up to them to decide, like to protect, not to decide, but it is up to them to protect and to like decide how much access do they want somebody to have to that dress. And if I'm Kim Kardashian and they're telling me that I'm gonna have the fucking honor of wearing Marilyn Monroe's fucking dress that she's saying happy birthday Mr. President to the Met Gala when the theme is Gilded Age, I'm sorry, but I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no.
Here's the real question. Here's what I like very, very quickly didn't care about the who, if she's allowed or who owns it and this, that, and the third and blah blah blah. I very quickly beer break. I very quickly lost track of all of that because that's for like you guys to really go. I don't have a horse in that race. What I thought about immediately is, Kim Kardashian. What Kim Kardashian is trying to say is that she is today's Marilyn. Is that true?
I saw some people say that. I feel like people need to stop making comparisons. Like Kim Kardashian is the Kim Kardashian of now.
I know,
and Marilyn Monroe is the Marilyn Monroe.
But if that was the case,
then
then she would have just created a moment to where you could remember Kim Kardashian. She's very specifically making a statement. That.
I mean, you can make that argument. I don't think that's
part of the reason why I don't like that.
Just choosing to not have another moment like that necessarily means that she's like alluding to that. I think I can sit here and see the comparisons.
It's like if somebody wore the meat dress for Lady Gaga. They're not going to, like, if they replicated it, obviously maybe that dress doesn't exist anymore, but if they replicated it, whoever replicates it and wears it, what they're saying is, I'm the next Gaga.
But you don't know that. You're like, that's what
I'm
you
so
might be
inspired
thinking.
by this person. I get
That's
to be
different.
I get to personify. I'm the personification of this person.
But that's different. I think somebody can replicate something in the sense of like, I understand what this meant in the moment and what that represents for me, and I want to honor that without being like, I am that.
And I think you would have been completely correct if she hadn't actually worn the Marilyn dress. So if she had worn the replica, I would have been like,
your argument is because she wore the actual dress,
that's fair.
She does think that she's Marilyn.
She's stepping. Now you're not going to associate the Marilyn dress just to Marilyn. You're going to have to associate it to Kim Kardashian.
Oh, so your argument is that she's erasing some of her...
No, I don't think she's erasing. I think that you think the Marilyn dress now and you're going to be like, forgive me. I remember when Kim Kardashian wore it too. And you're going to be like, it's no longer just associated to Marilyn.
I thought the statement was, I'm this generation's Marilyn Monroe.
Because Lana Del Rey wore an imitation of it, and you would never associate the Marilyn dress to Lana Del Rey. You don't even know that. Nobody knew that.
Because I feel like that's different.
But that goes to the point that I'm making.
Because it was an imitation.
Nobody, no. But also, Lana Del Rey, as great as she is, she does not have the cultural clout that Kim Kardashian has.
That's fine. But like, I didn't, nobody would have ever associated that to her.
But that's because nobody's like... I agree. Like, I don't think that has to do with like because she wore an imitation. I think that has to do because Lana Del Rey is a very niche person to follow. So it's like nobody's paying attention to Lana Del Rey.
If Kim Kardashian would have
Lana Del Rey is great, but I'm just saying like
if she would have worn an imitation
most
dress,
things that Lana Del Rey does do not make headlines. So you know what I mean?
But because Kim Kardashian wore an imitation afterwards.
Sorry, you gotta have to repeat that because we're gonna be in the thing, and I don't want to cut you off. So repeat what you said.
So like she actually wore an imitation afterwards. Like she only walked like a minute or two on the actual red carpet with the pictures dress. And then afterwards wore an imitation dress.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, okay, cool. Like that's great because it actually
But you still
fit
made
her.
the statement with the real dress though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I feel like that is why a lot of like fashion historians were like, you really, if you were trying to make the statement of, I want to represent, or I want to at least have you guys remember what Marilyn was talking about when she wore this dress. Because you were going to talk
replica, right?
Because you're going to talk about it anyway.
The same effect.
I agree.
No,
I
don't think it would have had the same effect.
But I think the effect that it has is that she's placing herself at that pinnacle of culture.
Yeah.
I think that's what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
I think that she's trying to say
anybody's
Marilyn. Going to be the next Marilyn is me.
And I don't
know
as
much
as
I don't like next Marilyn, but I agree that she's saying like
this generation's Marilyn.
This generation, you know what I mean? A level where I get to do shit like where like nobody else is gonna have the honor because nobody else has the fucking clout.
Right.
And I don't think
nobody else can.
And I don't think that's fair to Marilyn.
And they won't even get in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what that decision meant. Is that like not only does like that's what at least that's the way I interpreted it. Is I have the cultural currency to be able to do this.
And what's more gilded age than that?
Right. And like to be able to do this and not be told anything by any of the gatekeepers of any of that world. I supersede all of that. And as much as I don't like it because I don't think that she should have that title, she might have that title. You can make a good argument why she does have that title.
She put herself there, and I just think it's really disrespectful.
You're absolutely right. anything that woman does makes headlines. Marilyn, when she was alive, her singing "Happy Birthday" made a headline. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so who is this generation's top tier cultural icon in the fashion world? I think there's no way around it. I think it's Kim.
Until the fact that I think it makes total sense that like Kim K has a lot of like social impact right now, and she's got a lot of social impact with a lot of the stuff that she's done. But I don't think that you can compare or should compare her to Marilyn, and I don't like the fact that unfortunately now everybody is comparing her to Marilyn, because I think Marilyn has her own way.
Before she wore the dress, you might have been right. You shouldn't compare them. But the fact that she did it means now you have to compare them.
And that's what I don't like.
But also,
that's what I don't like.
Because she's the one making you have this conversation, which is kind of a power move. That's kind of like,
the thing is
I just wish she just didn't have to do that with Marilyn specifically. It's because it's like
because you might have like you might have like a romanticism to what Marilyn was or whatever, but
or just because of what Marilyn's history and like how
Me
that's where I have like a disconnect with that, because I'm like, I mean, I understand who Marilyn Monroe was,
and I'm with you,
but I'm like, number one, she didn't like. I'm about to say some controversial shit.
Yo, you better be careful. I can repeat it for you because I don't have any horse in the race.
I don't know how to like word this is the thing. And again, like, I'm not attached to American culture in that way. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand like, I know who Marilyn Monroe is. I understand the impact she had. I understand the impact she had in that dress alone. But I'm like, she wore a dress, you know what like she just wore a dress that had a huge impact then. It had a huge impact now, and I can understand the comparisons between being like, this is what Marilyn Monroe like represented at the time, and this is who Kim Kardashian represents now. But I don't think that anyone is putting Marilyn Monroe and Kim Kardashian in the same playing field in general. I think like they can like see that they both have had like impacts in society and the way like in, you know, women's like place in society or whatever. But I think like when I think of Marilyn Monroe, I'm like, Marilyn Monroe was an actress, she was a singer, she was a performer, she was all of these things beyond being a sex symbol. And when I think of Kim Kardashian, yes, she like you could probably say that Kim Kardashian is also a sex symbol, but it's just two different things. Like, I don't think that anyone is really comparing them. I think people compare them in the time within the context that she was wearing this dress and why she was wearing this dress. But I don't think outside of the Met Gala anybody is like, Kim Kardashian is the next. I think Kim Kardashian might be the next like Pamela Anderson or something like that. You know what I mean?
She's
like
way above Pam.
Like. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
she was the next Pamela Anderson like 10 years ago.
I think at the time, like, within that context, there was room for comparison.
God, I can't believe y'all making me defend Kim Kardashian.
I think outside of the Met Gala, she wore, like, in that instance, outside of that, I don't think anyone is comparing Kim Kardashian to Marilyn Monroe.
Well, that's...
Go. Okay. No,
I had, like, 2 points on it. That was... I don't like the idea of comparing Kim Kardashian and Marilyn Monroe when it comes to like their overall who they were, because I mean, Kim Kardashian, she comes from money. Her parents had money. It's not this like from nothing story, where Marilyn Monroe's story really was that, and she came, you know, she didn't start ahead the way that Kim Kardashian did.
Aside from the iconography, her story is one of to sound corny, like what a dream is made out of.
And it's riddled with like really a lot of trauma as well. She went through a lot.
Yes, Marilyn Monroe, make no mistake about it, is whether you like it or not, is a kind of like a feminist staple.
But with that being said, I don't mind if we're just looking at it from a sex icon place, comparing the two, because I think Kim Kardashian is in a place that she is constantly criticized for like scandalous things and doing scandalous things. So I don't necessarily mind like that part of it. Her saying like, I'm the person that people look at and maybe, you know, talk about the scandalous things that I do in the same way that they did back then with Marilyn.
So I'm gonna go. Oh, sorry. Are you not?
I was just gonna say I also do still agree, because I don't think that's something that can be damaged, that is that sensitive, should be brought out of a museum still, though. You know?
So I'm going to go on two polar opposites almost instantaneously, so you're going to have to bear with me. on one end, I understand if the argument of like the comparison between Marilyn Monroe might irk me a little bit because of that Rags to Riches story. The sex icon part of it, Marilyn Monroe, in some way, shape, or form, knew she was being objectified in a time where the objectification of women was a very different kind of thing than it is now, and she used it as a weapon to make a point, which is very specific, a very specific method of driving culture, and she did it so well, and that it pierced culture. That's where I find the kind of like irritation of it, because Kim Kardashian gets objectified because she makes things that allow her to be objectified.
And it's for
you know
her
what I'm
own
saying?
benefit.
She's not using the objectification as a weapon to go against patriarchy, for example.
So what? But I don't understand what the difference is then.
That Kim Kardashian is using objectification of her body to just get rich.
Yeah.
That is her story.
So what did Marilyn did?
So this is the thing with
Marilyn used the fact that she was being used as a sex symbol as a way to point out a lot of.
But in which way is what I mean? Like that's where I'm like. And I'm not saying this. I really don't know that. Again, like I don't know shit about American history. Like I really don't. Like you just said, like Marilyn came from like this, and I'm like I don't know anything about. So Marilyn's like Marilyn, story. But I'm like, what's the difference between Marilyn Monroe, like making a career and like putting herself in places that benefited her?
That's a good point.
By saying, okay, y'all are gonna do this shit. I'm gonna do this shit. Like if we're gonna do this shit, we're gonna fucking do it. We're fucking pulling the plug.
That it was an accident when it happened to her. And then after it was already happening to her, then she said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fuck the president.
Do we not see the correlation?
No, because it was not an accident for Kim
purpose.
Kardashian. Kim Kardashian knew from the very beginning that she was using her sex tape to get famous. That just happened recently. Ray J and Chris just came out with a statement recently that said, no, it was planned from the very beginning. And Kris who? Jenner.
Kris Jenner came out with a statement that said that they planted.
That the entire sex tape was planned ahead of time.
Came out with a statement. How the fuck?
Well, I don't know if it's a statement, but Ray J confirmed that it had been.
Okay, Ray J saying it was planned, and Kris Jenner saying two different things.
Do you think it's far fetched that would not be a planted thing?
Ray J, who was not able to make as successful as a career from a sex tape, to say that he's been trying to drag this like sex tape situation for 20 years. Do I think that he wouldn't say that to get some clout? Yes.
At the time, Ray J was the more famous one.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. You don't like in my head, it doesn't seem far off that Ray J. Him being like, this bitch got so fucking famous from this shit. Well,
she capitalized on it, but his statement.
He's still trying to capitalize on it 20 years later.
But his statement is also not unbelievable. It doesn't. I don't have a doubt in my mind that Kris was like, yeah, you can do that. That's fine. We'll make it work.
It would have made more sense if like. I would have doubted Ray J's statement a little bit more if it had been that like she instantly became famous off of that thing. But I do believe Ray J because of that.
I don't want to like harp on that instance. The point that I'm making is that somebody might see their objectification as two completely different methods to that same, or two different sides to that same coin. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, I honestly, again, I don't really particularly care or like the Kardashian clan. I don't see anybody currently that has that kind of cultural currency and power.
Yeah.
So in a way, both those things can be true at the same time. She could have been disrespectful to a lot of people, but she also is the only person that could pull that off because she does have that kind of cultural power, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, her statement, even though she's forcing us to have this conversation, in a lot of ways, her statement still rings true. She is this generation's cultural icon. She is this generation's feminist, or
I wouldn't call Kim K a feminist,
the iconography of woman, of a woman, the iconography of sex, of sex symbols. So she does have that power, whether you like it or not. I can't think of anybody that can pull that off.
I really wish that was the case for Kim K.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. And you may be right. Anna Wintour and Donatella and like all those people and Tom Ford and all those, they might be over there and be like, no, she doesn't cut it. Like they may not be actually having the conversation of like, she's not Marilyn. No, because you said, like nobody at the Met Gala is actually comparing the two.
No. I just mean nobody outside of the Met Gala in the sense that like nobody outside of the event is being like, wow, Kim Kardashian really is the next mayor. Like it's like,
okay. Like, I thought you meant like the people at the Met Gala are not making that comparison.
I don't think anybody is making that comparison outside of the context of that particular instance.
Okay. So I misunderstood. I apologize.
Because that's interesting that you say that, because I don't think that's true. I think that like she had already been compared to Marilyn before she wore the Marilyn dress.
I had never done that.
No.
I think in some, like I'm saying, like I think in some ways people might have been like, oh, like in like what we're talking about, like. For within a specific context, you can make a comparison between Kim Kardashian and Marilyn Monroe. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you can do that.
Sure.
But that's not the same thing as being like, Kim Kardashian is the next Marilyn Monroe. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think...
So I think that conversation was already like, it wasn't necessarily in the air. I just think it had... Yeah. It was like essentially like, you know, like it might have been like a passing.
Like some people might have thought that.
Might have been like a passing thought.
You might have engaged with that conversation at like a bar, and you might have been like, "Oh, I feel like this," or I think that. But I don't think that was ever like.
And I think that would have been perfectly fine until she wore the dress. Because I think it would have been perfectly fine for everybody.
It's so weird. I would have never had that conversation until she wore the dress.
No. I know. Like specifically people who don't necessarily follow her or like are in that stuff.
And it's fucking
a lot of like, I think Kanye himself, way before this, had actually been like, she is the next. She is the Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, did he say that?
That is specifically true. I just remember. But that's what I'm saying. Like, he would say some shit like that.
So he had already like, because there's people who really fucking fuck with Kanye. So there was already people who were like, oh yeah, she's the next whatever. So her making that power move of, I'm gonna wear Marilyn's dress, was that power move of everything. And I think if Kim K just stood for a little bit more than just vapid materialism, I think it would have been great. I think it would have been like, cool. We're like, I want to see her.
I don't like that I sit here and now I have to sound like I'm defending the Kardashians, but I don't think that's how I feel too. I don't think that Kim Kardashian stands for like vapid materialism. Like, I don't think that's true at all.
I don't think I've ever associated her to feminism. I've never associated her to
be honest, I feel like a lot of the times when like every time that people kind of have that stand against Kim Kardashian, I'm like, it like, why not? That's what I want to know. Not
because you have people like Rihanna that Rihanna specifically is like, don't fucking compare me to no man. Don't fucking tell me, well, do I need a man? I don't need a man. Like,
because Rihanna has a better comparison to Marilyn than
in terms of social, in terms of like social impact on what they were talking about socially.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Rihanna talks more, aligns more with what Marilyn was saying at the time. Because I know you don't know this, but Marilyn was specifically saying,
I know this is not your point, but you've convinced me that Rihanna is the next Marilyn Monroe.
because Rihanna is the first Rihanna.
Well, yes, but like she's
impact,
you know what I mean?
Was very important on the feminist movement of America, and it's been very, very important. It's been noted. It's been
not only her. It's so crazy. It's like history. It's not only her. Also Jackie Kennedy.
Yes,
the wife of the guy that she was fucking. Like, you know what I mean? Okay. Like, it was so.
Here's why I have issue with that.
Which props to fucking JFK. Yo, I support feminists.
Clearly, I clearly support feminists.
Jackie Kennedy was an icon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Icon.
And what I mean? They both were icons for the same thing. Used very different methods to tell you that.
Jackie Kennedy was used to show high class, and Marilyn was used to show, again, the objectification of women in general. But they both kind of, in a way, I guess over time stood for the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Which is why
I want to talk about Rihanna now.
I really wish that, I really wish Kim, because I like a lot of the stuff that Kim K has done, just in general, because I think she's really interesting to see as like somebody from the outside, just as like an analytical way. Is like very interesting to see her just development and what she's done and the shit that she's been successful for. I just wish that like she hadn't brought up the conversation of Marilyn and left Marilyn to be what she's always been, and then not had to open up the conversation of like, am I really gonna have to be comparing Kim K to Marilyn in a conversation now just because she wore a goddamn dress? Like I don't like that, because we've seen Rihanna in a dress that was very similar to what she wore.
My tits making you uncomfortable? They're covering Swarovski crystals, girl. Huh? That is iconic. What the fuck?
You don't remember when she wore the dress that was just crystals?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was about to have a heart attack.
Which is exactly the way we saw Rihanna when that was happening, was the way that people were looking at Marilyn whenever that happened to her, because all you saw was sparkly girl.
Titties.
You saw everything. Because you could see Marilyn's everything. Mm-hmm. Like, we obviously couldn't see any little dusty ass little cameras that they got going on YouTube and shit. But like they could have been like, the Kennedys were looking.
I still think Rihanna's the winner of this year's Met Gala, and she didn't even go.
I think
she was a statue. That whole
they
literally made a statue.
Was fucking fire.
I never saw the statue. What the fuck?
It's amazing. Pull up the statue. It's this fucking bronze.
I think like I definitely have issue with like. I don't know that. I really don't get the problem. Not about the dress, but I think in terms of like Kim Kardashian and like,
it's your disassociation to Marilyn.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's fucking wild. Look at that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's everything. Wow,
and
that's
in
incredible.
her pregnancy, like,
oh, that's amazing.
It was in this. Yes.
Oh, I'm taking wow.
We love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, look at that shit. Look at that fucking. That's iconic.
Yeah, like that's iconic.
Yeah, like fuck, man. Rihanna wins the Met Gala.
Rihanna always wins, bro. Rihanna always wins. Literally always wins.
That shit, man. A$AP Rocky don't know what the fuck is going on right now. Fuck.
I don't know. Something about the comparison of Kim K and Marilyn just does not sit right with me. I get it. I'm not even like a big fashion historian type of thing and whatever, and I'm not really all that into like pop culture. But Kimmy K and Marilyn just are not, they're not the vibe together. Let my baby girl be her vibe on her own, and Kimmy K can be her vibe on her own too, just not together. But for the most part, I think that it's just not a good idea to be wearing some dead person's outfit. I say that while I thrift, but these people are not that important. I think it's okay.
So upon hearing the conversation that we had, originally when we were talking about the dress, I really thought, is Kim Kardashian trying to say that she's the next Marilyn Monroe? And in the conversation, I'm saying over and over again that I can't see anybody with the cultural currency of a Kim Kardashian to be able to make that kind of power move, but I am wrong. I have, in the conversation, the moment we talked about Rihanna and then I placed it together, I knew Rihanna is the closest thing to a Marilyn Monroe that we can possibly ever get to. Completely different in their own right, but in terms of like iconography, in terms of pushing things forward, in terms of being big feminist and like an advocate for change, Rihanna. So I stand. I know that Kim Kardashian was probably trying to say that she is at that god tier of like icon, but I think she missed the mark. I think Rihanna's statue spoke silently while she was flaunting a dress that she might or might not have had to, she might have or might not have needed to wear. So
he's good.
That's amazing. Is that where we want to end? I want to talk about Yolanda Saldívar getting re-beat up by that little girl.
Who?
There was a
video.
I don't know if there's a video, but there's a little girl. There's like a little girl that asked her mom if she could have a piñata with Yolanda Saldívar's face.
Yeah.
And she dressed up as Selena and she just beat the fuck out of that piñata.
Nice.
And her mom approved it. She went viral because of it.
Where is it?
I don't know where, I don't know. It might have been in Houston.
Niña venga, Selena quebrando piñata de Yolanda Saldívar.
Look at that.
You better work.
And she wore like the iconic Selena like purple thing. I'm like, what a birthday.
It's like, as a Hispanic,
19.1 million views on TikTok.
Work. Of course, it was on TikTok.
Fuck with it.
As a Latina,
getting our hits.
As a person, I'm like, I'm concerned about your parenting.
Selena, what you about to do, girl? Yes.
Oh, fuck this bitch up is what she just said.
Come on, Selena, kick her ass.
Go.
Kick her ass.
All day.
That little girl is
All
getting
day.
into fights at 7 in the morning in
All
high
day.
school for sure.
She going ham.
Yo, she was all they could talk about in elementary school that next Monday.
Yo, the fact that this little girl had the like ingenuity to even think about that. Like, what the fuck would I ever think about making some sort of like?
Well, I'm sure
like
that
a
if you grew up with
statement
a
like
mom
that.
being like, fuck this bitch, Yolanda Salivar.
fuck Yolanda Salivar.
If I could beat her ass, I would.
This girl's just trying to get her mom's
That's
attention.
fucking cool.
Like, this girl's just trying to get her mom's approval. Like, look, mom, I beat up Yolanda Salivar. Don't you hate her?
On one side, I'm like, that is brilliant. On the other side, I'm like, somebody needs to check on that parent because that little kid, like, I'm scared for her future.
The little girl says, she's like, can I say it? She's like, yeah, go ahead. She's like, I'm about to beat this bitch's ass.
Like, they don't be beating kids' ass like they used to. Let me say some shit like that in front of my mom. She would have been
Yeah,
like,
you better be careful. There's a whole new world out here where they don't like hitting kids.
that's crazy.
This is our Latin American, like.
That's crazy.
This is how you know we're not
There's
from
like
this country.
there's two versions of like Latinos.
Yeah,
and,
that's
like,
how you know there's two, because there's a whole group
I'm
of
the
like
one-
new generation.
we were the
I
one
don't think
that-
Gen Z is gonna hit their kids.
I'm not gonna hit my kid.
I probably wouldn't hit my kid, but my mom really didn't hit me either, and I turned out not to be like the biggest asshole in the world.
I'm not
so.
gonna hit my kid, and if the father of my child decides to come out and hit my kid, I'm gonna beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, like I wouldn't
like, see how
hit
you
my
like
kid
it.
because like let's move past the generational trauma. Like let's go to therapy and like solve our, you know what I mean? Like let's actually learn how to raise kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Nobody beats their
I
kids like they
really
used
want
to.
to have the conversation when everybody has children, because when you get them little kids,
well, I'm not gonna have kids,
and they
so
start
that's that.
and they
I'm
start.
gonna tell you right
But
now, when
also,
I was a
like,
kid, I needed to get
You
beat.
were fucking evil.
Yeah.
You were evil. You were fucking evil. When your kids come out, they better motherfucking come out like you, because I swear to God. No.
Here's the thing.
They're gonna be the calmest
Like a
people.
very real no.
I want to
like,
see your ass
hitting your
say.
kids doesn't fucking
No.
work. Like you're like that's
I want
not
to
a
see her
thing.
say that
Like,
again.
I mean, you can like everybody has like their own like parenting thing, but like I grew up and like I didn't really get like hit, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really get in trouble as a kid. I was a pretty chill kid, but also like that's not like you're not really accomplishing anything by hitting your kid. You know what
You
I
are
mean?
asserting
Like,
your dominance. Let me just say that.
but you're not. But you're like it should that shouldn't be like how you approach
You would
parenting.
think that. You would
by
think
asserting
that.
your dom. Like
You
they're not
really-
like a dog.
You really
know?
would think that until you have the kid.
my grandma literally
and it
said
depends.
kids are like puppies. You gotta
Because
like
this is the
figure
thing.
out.
Like I
think that's a fucked up way to
100%.
look at it.
I'm not saying that you're
know?
wrong. I'm just saying that's what my grandma literally
I
said.
100%. Like I wasn't hit as a kid. He knows this. I was never
Yeah, you
hit
were
as a
not-
kid.
you were not
But I was
tortured.
a very different kid from my kid, for instance, or him. I was very calm.
Yeah,
I said
my parents-
nothing.
For sure.
Whoa, what's up me?
They would was up you, yes, and you rightly deserved
I
it.
still feel it.
Yeah.
I still right here, my mom's.
And let me
know what
tell
I mean?
you- let me
but,
tell
but
you-
I'm gonna tell you right now. I remember getting slapped, or like in certain things, and it was mostly because I was being like real disrespectful to my mom.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, "You ain't about to talk to my wife like that."
Exactly.
So, and
Nah, but the thing
or like
about
my mom
hitting,
herself
like,
being like, "What you
The
just call
thing
me?"
about
And
like,
bah, like
corporal punishment is like if you're having a kid, like the idea is to like raise the kid, right?
Yes.
Like you're raising
Yes.
them to be like a functional adult.
Yeah,
And if
sometimes it
my
doesn't work
response
like
is-
that.
huh?
Sometimes it just doesn't work like that.
But that's like the whole thing, like the whole argument about hitting your kids is being like, if you're resorting to that, it's a reflection of you, of being like, I don't have the tools right now to deal with this situation,
Yes.
which just really means I have to get the tools to deal with the situation. You know what
Sure.
I mean? Which is like what I always heard, like growing up, like my dad was super against that shit. Cause also
super
like,
hitting your kids.
yeah, like my dad,
hitting your kids?
my dad wouldn't even raise his voice at us. Like
Got
he
it.
just didn't fuck with that because he was like, I'm not teaching you shit. Like if you're throwing a tantrum and I hit you, what I'm telling you is whatever you felt is wrong, and whenever you're 15 or 16, you're not gonna know how to deal with those fucking emotions. And I can't have a fucking 16-year-old throwing a fucking tantrum, like having a mental breakdown because she got like a bad grade or something. It's like, I'm not preparing you for life.
I think there's a very like.
I would make the argument that at 8 years old, you're not supposed to be trying to teach your kids how to do that anyway. But
you are. Like, that's the thing. Like, you are.
This is the thing. Again.
But they're not going to comprehend that. They're not going to comprehend
so
complicated, like really, really, really complicated situations. They're not going to comprehend it.
This video. There's this video of this little boy that's like, he's probably like 5, I want to say, and he has like a little brother as well. And he is the most emotionally mature human being I have ever seen, because they're like his I'm not kidding you, his little brother is over here and his little brother starts to cry and he goes, it's okay to be sad, you can cry, or like his little brother would come up and try to take his toy or something, he'd be like, I know sometimes it's hard to share, but you had your turn.
That kid's gonna get bullied
now. And he is
whenever that kid goes to school and somebody messes with him, number one, he's probably gonna be like, what are you doing right now? Like, I don't understand what you're trying to like accomplish to me. But number two, whatever that person is making them feel, they're gonna know how to deal with that. They're gonna know like who to go. Act like that in public, where we went to school, that kid was gonna get bullied. That kid would not have lunch every day.
Absolutely. Like as somebody,
but that's because other fucking parents are not raising their kids like be little shit.
And as somebody,
in a perfect world, if everybody had kids like that, then if
everybody was teaching the kids to stop having generational trauma, I would totally understand that. But in comparison, like literally, this happened about a week ago.
You don't have to like teach your kids to deal with their emotions, and also be like, hey, you like. I think people talk about that with like gentle parenting, and people are like, oh yeah, you're gonna teach your kid like gentle parenting, and then tomorrow they're not gonna know how to deal with like hard situations. It's like, no, that's exactly what you're teaching them to do. You're teaching them to not break down like in front of like the face of hard situations. They're not like, if a kid like
gentle parenting is different than coddling.
They're not for sure. They're gonna know how to deal with situations, because you're also gonna give them the tools to do that. Like, you're giving them the confidence to do that, and when they don't know how to do that, they're also gonna know how to ask for help, because they're gonna be confident enough in the people that are around them.
I think people confuse gentle parenting with coddling or which is completely different.
I think that's like 100% true. And then again, as somebody who has a child and is currently raising them and literally on their own, it is a lot easier and it's frustrating for me to hear you guys talk, because it's like I'm actually living through what it's like to raise the child and do all the things and have to be like, yes, sometimes I have to be like, fuck, I can't. I shouldn't let out my anger with you, because I am consciously thinking I cannot be letting out generational trauma. That's not okay. But then sometimes kids are actual pieces of shit assholes. Like and I mean that because they're human.
I would argue most kids are
because
assholes.
they are human, and that does mean that sometimes they do shit on purpose to be mean. To be assholes, to do these things.
I will make an addendum to that whole conversation, only because of personal experience. I have, on one hand, been hit as a kid, but on the other hand, am also a testament to not restarting the generational trauma cycle, because you have a whole life with that person. So at a certain point in time, the way my folks had with me, you get to have a conversation and talk about the realities of and circumstances and history and all these things. And you get to hopefully have very honest conversations about what people were going through at the time and things like that. And then you can come to a very, very healthy point of understanding where you're like, I get it. Yeah. You were a broken person. You were healing. You're better now. We're here now. And you could still stop the generational, and I think continuance of trauma. Even at a later point, whenever that kid is 100% 25, 26 or something like that.
There is something that like,
that's also not to say that you should be like beating the fuck out of your kids all the time for no reason. Absolutely. That's not what I'm advocating for.
And I think that's very important to talk about, in the sense that it's like, your kid's gonna complain about you regardless, bro. Like, because you were brought up one way, I was brought up another. I still complain about my parents. Like, I still told my parents at one point or another, y'all sucked at this parenting shit sometimes. Like, and they never hit me. I was never hit.
And I be telling them, and I be telling you that they killed it.
Yeah.
That they're like, yo, they did such a great job with you.
Yeah, and I've come to that realization as somebody who's raising a kid that it's like, my kid's gonna complain about me regardless. So I'm not gonna pretend to be perfect with my kid because I'm not. So at the end of the day, when I am raising my kid, I do 100% be like, what are you feeling? Especially my kid don't understand no shit, but like I can't have that conversation of like, what are you feeling? What's going on or whatever. And then there's times where you really have to be like, look, I understand what you're feeling. I get it. You're feeling frustrated, but it's not the place and it's not the time. And the reason I say that is because although my parents never hit me, I live with the fear of God with my mother. I literally live with
my parents never hit me, but nothing. I have never fear anyone like my mother. Like to this fucking day.
And my mom didn't hit me, but she did verbally. You could have considered her the way she spoke to us and how she spoke to us. What most people consider now verbal abuse.
Oh man, that's a whole different side.
And so it's like, I don't know. Because
speaking of that, speaking as a fear, Brie will sometimes be like massaging my back, or like the back of my head, and she'll grab me like this, like it's just like squeeze my neck, and as soon as she squeezes my neck, I go. Like, it's just like, why do you always do that? And I'm just like, because my mom's because I used to be at the store, like, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? And my mom will be like,
you be running around and shit?
No. Just stop asking.
So when I was growing up,
just wait till you get home.
But me and all of my siblings, we were all hit. I think I was hit a little bit less just because I was a very like quiet, shy kid, kind of similar to you, Marcella. So they didn't, and they were very, it was obvious that when they would hit us though, it was them letting out their frustration a lot of the times, which
yeah.
So I definitely see that as being like,
counterproductive.
Because it was never this idea of like, oh, if you do something wrong, you get in trouble for it. It's like, if you make me mad, you get in trouble for it. So I can do shit wrong.
That's a very different thing.
But so I see that. I see that as being a wrong way of punishment. But I also see, because some people say like, oh, well, I never like do it as like me letting out my anger. Like I'll, spank my kid if they do something wrong, and then we'll have a conversation about it, and I'll tell them I love them and things. The other issue that comes with that, and this is like a psychological proven thing, like there's like studies on it, that then it starts to become trauma bonding. And then kids get used to that, so then they grow up learning that. And so then when they're in an abusive relationship, if their significant other like puts their hands on them or even is verbally abusive to them, and then afterwards like, I love you so much, like that, they're like, oh, that's love. So I just don't see in what way you can use like spanking or hitting as a punishment without having some kind of trauma behind it, without leaving some kind of traumatic,
that's fair,
side to it. That's just my personal.
I can see how you could use that, but it's a very delicate rope to have to balance. But even then, I don't think it might not even be something that I choose to employ, because again, like, it works differently for everybody. But I think circumstantially, how you end up being a parent and the conditions in which you're being a parent affect a lot of those kinds of decisions, parenting decisions, and somebody can already ahead of time say like, oh, I'm like, or for me, for example, I've committed myself to not having a kid to a certain point in my life. Therefore, I don't think that I'd ever necessarily like result to that.
I just realized I'm going to be a Thea one day.
For real, one day.
In like a very real way. Yeah. Like right now, I'm not like a real Thea because like he's my
What if your brother has a kid?
My brother's going to have a kid.
I know, but like.
He's the one that's going to give my mom, like they know it.
That's funny.
He's going to have a kid. I mean, I feel like, to be fair, like part of like that whole conversation is also like, I guess kind of what you were saying. It's like with parenting, there's so much like criticism, you know what I mean? And to be fair, I think if you're not like a qualified, like everybody can have like their own opinions as to like how they would do it. You know what I mean? Like in saying like, I would never hit my kids, or like I would be okay with this kind of situation, or I would be that. But I think like at the end of the day, like parenting just comes with so much like questioning and criticism that it's like, Listen, whichever way you manage to do it, dude.
Like, nothing you ever do is gonna be perfect. Like no matter how you do it.
I also think it's a moving target.
Yeah.
Like it's a moving.
Like,
it's not only a moving target, but if you have multiple kids, it's multiple moving targets.
Yeah, and that's why I would always like talk about like. I have like I probably have like the best relationship with my parents out of like anyone that I know, like my age, like and my friends have good relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
But like I have a really, really good relation. Like I am very open with my parents. Like I talk to my parents like every day. Like we communicate. Like
you do be talking to your parents every day.
Like I literally was texting my mom earlier, so if you saw me on my phone, it was that. She was like. She broke her phone, so I was like, "Oh, girl, I'll text you later." But you know, and like I like genuinely think my parents like I have pretty young parents. They have very progressive parents, and I'm like, man, my parents like loved us a lot, and they were like committed to being like we're kind of fucked up, but we want to give you like the best fucking version that we can.
Shout out to young parents.
Shout out to young parents, bro.
Progressive, highly educated parents.
Shout out to young fucking parents.
I will say and the reason why I say this is because I think it's very, very important to note that if you are a progressive parent, it does not mean that you cannot have that slip up of hitting your kid when you feel frustrated or when something happens. The reason that's being said is...
I mean progressive like ideologically. I don't mean progressive in terms of like taking...
I mean, as speaking as people that like are talking about like not wanting to ever like hit your kid or believe that might be like the way that you want to parent your kid. Like once it comes down to,
I want to see if I could.
Once it actually comes down to like raising, or again, you mentioned it right now. It's like it's the way that you were put into being a parent that affects a lot of the way that you end up being with your kid. Because I didn't know how to be. As emotionally mature as I am now when I first had my kid.
This is what I mean. But like the point I was making earlier, to put it concisely, is there's never a wrong time to stop generational trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's never a wrong. You could be 30. Your kid could be 30. Your kid could be 45. Your kid could be 8. Like there's never a wrong time to do it.
It still has the same amount of impact on the kid.
I only say that specifically because, like I said, I was hit as a kid, but also the circumstances in which our parents ended up being parents were very excruciating circumstances. And when you, like I said, when you sit down and have these conversations as an adult and you really ask those tough questions and that you get honest answers back, you really start to see their world in a very different context. And you start to then, even as a kid, I may have had some sort of like trouble with like, like resentment or something like that, right? But like as I'm hearing these conversations play out, and then I'm processing and I'm doing this, and I'm watching them, and I'm looking back through memories, and I'm piercing back the layers, and I'm going back to the memory files, and so then I'm like, oh, holy crap! Like I have a huge respect for what you've done, and I have, or like you start to see the world in a more shades of gray, realistic kind of way, and not just this like black and white. I hate you, mom, because you didn't let me go to the store.
I think
like,
especially
you know what I mean?
You having surpassed the age of which they had you, and you not having a kid. That's
another point.
Because you get to be like, well, how the fuck was I at 20 years old? Because I definitely don't know if I could have handled having a whole ass child.
I say that shit all the time.
Moving to a whole different country, doing all this shit on my own. Like
I say that shit all the time. Like I go back to them and I'm like, how you guys pulled this shit off?
And you know what's crazy?
I have no idea.
Is it's like, as for me, with me trying to break that generational trauma with my kid, it's also because I was in a very not the best ideal situation when I had my kid. And now, as she's 4 going on to 5, within those 4 years of life are a long time to be doing a lot of different things. So I've had to learn to forgive myself for the things that I know I fucked up in when she was young and I was frustrated.
But that goes to the point about like it's never the wrong time to stop the generational trauma. You know what I mean?
And I'm not saying, because this is the thing, the reason I say this is because there are times where I still hit my kid. Like that's just gonna be what it is, and that's just because that's how I'm choosing to do it. And because sometimes my kid's a fucking dick, and she will be a dick for a specific, because this is the thing, your kids. Once you have your kids, you'll start to be like, I get it. You're being, you're feeling frustrated, and you're gonna have that one kid that's like, I'm really doing this to piss you off. Please hit me. do some. Like, no, really. Because this is something like Natalia will look at me and be like,
you ain't gonna do nothing.
Do some. And she'll wait. No, she will wait.
You'll be like, don't drop that. And she'll go to like the farthest place and get to the highest place and look at you and say,
you have to know that, I don't know which fucking camera is on right now, but you have to know that all of them did this.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Simultaneously.
She will look at you dead in the eye and be like, oh, you mean like
and it's
this?
not even me though. She doesn't just do it to me. She'll do it to everybody. Like the minute you told her, it's like, don't go up the thing, she'll be like, Don't go where? What? This thing?
This thing?
You don't want me to go?
The thing that I can very clearly do because I'm an autonomous human being.
And this is why I say like asserting your dominance. And that sounds funny. And I really don't mean it in like a weird territorial way. I really do mean it in the sense it's like, I get what you're saying, baby.
Parent.
I get what you're saying, but it's my house, so you do what I say. The reason I say that is because that's how I grew up with my mom, and I do think that was actually a really nice way of being taught because it taught me boundaries. It taught me healthy boundaries because it taught me that I cannot have that kind of relationship with just anybody. Like I do have to understand that there's always gonna be somebody that you gotta have to stop that little line at, and you're gonna be like, oh, I can't talk to you like that. I can't be this way around certain people because there's people out there wilding who be acting like that with anybody, disrespecting old people.
At the gym,
I be seeing that shit. I be like,
and that's how you know those kids were not told who the hell
that's
was
the
that.
one time that I've looked at people and be like,
from the fucking heights, get a fucking hold of your kids. God damn.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's some people that I be looking at and I'm like, man, you need to get.
And that's when I revert to my generational trauma. Okay. And I'm like, maybe you should have whipped your fucking kid.
And you know, okay.
Your kid is acting crazy.
I'm gonna
what
say
is
this.
this?
I'm gonna say
this. Give shit about it.
Your kid pulled the fire alarm in front of the firefighters.
I'm gonna say this because
your kid just
fucking crazy.
Like your kid just like spit on some other kid and then bought this other bought. Why do I keep saying bought? What's a fucking bothered? No.
Bit.
Thank you. Like the amount of times that we had to be like, hey, don't put your mouth there. What are you doing?
So like, okay, I know
don't
somebody.
Bite other people.
I know. Like I hope this is gonna be fine. But like, I know someone that has kids that are older, and these people are white. Okay, they're white as can be. Deep in the heart of Texas, and these people literally got their kids are older. Their kids are put in these like, it sounds really dumb, but like they're put in these like really like advanced like not like extracurricular things like athletic stuff that, let me tell you, that was a privilege to have when I was young, because it was like if you want to be in this, you don't have to be in this sport. You're gonna have to deserve this shit.
Yeah, we will take everything away right now.
These little kids out here cussing their parents out. Fuck you fat bitch, blah, 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 blah. That kind of shit to their parents, and literally telling their kid and them putting them in this expensive ass clubs to be playing in.
No way.
And
you ever had that experience where somebody had that shit
and
you get scared for them? You're like, yo, your mom is coming.
Yeah,
bro,
dude. No. Okay.
Yo, what's your dad gonna do?
This information was told to us, or has been told to us, in a room full of minorities, with this person being the only not minority person there.
And every minority was
all of us would have been like, or literally look at each other. The minute this person leaves, we're all like, bro, the way my mama would have beat the fuck out of me. Yeah. The way I would have never even cared.
Maybe fear is like a better
sometimes you really need to be put in that line of like, baby, you can't talk to me like that because you're gonna get whooped.
Yeah. My mom never hit me, but that's because I didn't give her a reason to.
Yeah.
But the minute I would even try to turn my eyes, would be like, volteame los ojos una vez más para ver que te voy a voltear la cara. Te vas a quedar viendo al otro lado.
My mama told me that.
I would be like, and I believed her. I believed her. But
Mama really did that shit to me.
My eyes are gonna be in my back.
Funny enough, one, I think, I mean, if you have a kid that is acting that way and whatnot,
military school,
and you're saying, well, you're saying it's that they need to get hit. I don't necessarily think they need to get hit. I think they just failed as a parent in a different way. Yeah,
100%. 100%. It's just funny that all the minorities are like, shit.
Yeah.
You didn't have the fear of your mother.
But like once it got to a certain age with me and my siblings, and we were all hit, we had lost respect for our parents to the point that we were like, I mean, we call our parents by their first names because we're like, oh no, they're like, that's not mom and dad anymore.
That's a hell of a
look at her face. Look at her face.
That's real as fuck. When you get to an age when you're like, I'm realizing that I don't respect my dad or my mom, and I just like learn to fear
and they beat
them.
the shit out of us.
And I don't like. This is not how this relationship is supposed to work.
So which is why.
That's what I'm saying. But like the way your face changed, like let you call mom Claudia.
But it got to a point.
She gonna look back like.
Well, because it got to a point with us, with my family and with my siblings, we're all in a place of like, I'm gonna call you what I want to call you and stuff, because honestly, like I don't care if I'm around you. I don't care.
Like you said, they were just trying to get you to understand.
And I also understand the idea of like looking back at your family and like I know my parents were also not necessarily in the best place at the time of raising us. That I'm sure they went through hella shit. And looking back, I can also see their headspace and like their mental space of where they were. And part of it is also really scary because I see the stuff that they went through mentally, like just their mental health, and I can see it in myself as well. I see the depression that they went through, and like when I was younger I didn't understand it, and then it started happening to me, and then it made me more frustrated because I started saying, well, I want to fix this before I have kids so that I don't make them go through that. And then I got a lot of resentment in it as a teenager because I was like, why didn't you fix this?
Yeah.
Why didn't you correct this?
Like you're the adult. Yeah,
before putting me through it.
And that's why shout out props to mom and pops Jimenez because they literally sat down and they were like, we want to apologize for this and this and this and this and this.
So my parents won't accept that.
That's
like a really big thing because in that conversation, then you get to have like really honest dialogue, and in that conversation, we both get to hear things that are uncomfortable.
Like
you know what I mean?
A lot of people are not willing to be vulnerable about the things that they fuck up in. And I've had this conversation with mom specifically, and dad as well. But like mom specifically was like, I realized because she had you at what, 20?
20.
She had me at 27 or 26.
27.
Or she had you at 21, had me at 27. So basically she was like literally around the age of 25. She's like around the age of 25, 26, when I started thinking about having you, it was because I thought about the fact that she wanted, it sounds weird, but she kind of wanted to make up for how badly she had kind of been
she told me
dealing with her trauma for you. And I think
how she took it out on me.
I think that like a lot of people never get to that point where they realize that they fucked up. A lot of people still live in their trauma. They live in their and they're like really bad.
When you don't get to a chance of closure when it comes to those kinds of things, you also don't get to realize certain truths.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like in that conversation, and we'll end with this because we have to go. But in that conversation, we're gonna end like in a very like poignant point. But I had that conversation with mom and pops, and they admitted all those things to me, and immediately, I would have never said this otherwise. Immediately after that, as I'm processing, I get to then say something like, I feel like the first mistake I ever made was interrupt your lives. And I would have never said that had they never admitted to like certain things. Because then we were just going to keep going on this back and forth. We're like, well, I didn't ask to be here, but like you don't understand the circumstance, and then just blah, 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 nonstop. So then when you get to that point, then you get to like really then be like, phew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like but that's why I stick to my guns in terms of like, it's never a bad time to have those tough conversations to stop that generational divide, because there's chances are you have more alike than you have differences. You know what I mean? So
that's
anyway,
baby.
Till next time. Peace.
Bye guys. I love the fact that the people who don't have kids are literally talking about what they would do when they have kids. But let me just say, wait till you have the kid. Wait till it comes out of you, first of all. Wait till that trauma hits you. Wait till the literal trauma hits you, okay? And then wait till they come at you with a toy truck, and then tell me when you're going to be like, get your ass over here or whatever. I'm just saying.
I know that we were talking about children and parenting and things like that, but honestly, I think that I'm gonna be a fucking great parent. You know what I mean? I think I just give me like a genius kid. You know what I mean? Probably just have like a fucking genius ass kid, and like it wouldn't be that hard. Because how hard is it really?